If I say spot weld, chances are you're going to know what I'm talking about. If I say spot hole, chances are you're going to know what I'm talking about. But if I say spot face, you'd be surprised at how many people do not know what a spot face is. In the process of setting up a machine part, you may have a casting, a forging, or even a plate of steel that's going to be machined and at some point assembled to something else. And you may have a condition where the material is kind of thin, so you can't put in a proper counterbore hole, and a countersink is right out because you just cannot use a countersink. This is where a spot face comes in handy. Now, if we take a look, I have this block and I have this large edge blend on it, and right over here I have a screw clearance hole. Now, for the initiated, you know exactly what I'm talking about. For the uninitiated, this is a serious problem. The reason why something like this is a serious problem is because when you insert whatever fastener you're going to insert, you're going to end up with some sort of a clash. Now, before I get into explaining what a spot face is, if you would do me a favor and subscribe to the channel, because that really helps me out. And of course, comments are fun. And like the video, share it with somebody that you think may get something out of this, because I'm trying to share with the world important little bits of information, design intent that I think everybody would gain from. And of course, thank you. I wouldn't be doing this without you. So, a standard hole in a condition like this is a big no-no. Why? Because when this gets inserted, it's going to clash with that blend. Or maybe it's too close, and this type of a fastener would be all right. Based on the head shape, I could still get a tool in there and be okay with that. But there may be times when I have to use a hex head, something with 6 sides, and it's a little bit larger and it would clash and I couldn't get a tool in there properly and all sorts of other issues. So a standard hole in a condition like this is not a good idea. The next thing that people go and say, well, you know what, why don't we go ahead and put in a counterbore hole? So if I go in and place in a standard counterbore hole, now, mind you, these CAD systems like NX and 3D Experience, they've really improved their hole functions. They've included tons of libraries. So your standard size counterbores are in there. Now I'm going to pick this point. And depending on the type of fastener you're going to use, right? I have a screw clearance, because that's what that's going to be. It's an ANSI inch. What type of fastener? It's going to change the size of that counterbore. Pan head, hex bolt. Notice it's big. Heavy hex bolt. Cap screws, well, cap screws only go up to, like, they don't go up to it's a half-inch hole. They only go up to 3/8. So, okay, we can't use a cap screw, so we're going to have to back up off of that. And, go back to something, we'll just say a standard socket head cap screw. That is a 1/2 inch. Now, when you take a look at that, someone comes along and says, well, you know what, there's a lot of pressure on this, and we need basically a full thickness on that flange, needs to be held into place. So this type of scenario would be unacceptable. Okay. Oops, look at that. Let me come in here. And then to clear this out, I'm going to extend the start to remove that. And we get something like that. Now, if I were to go to the extreme and say, you know what, on top of that, I want the start chamfer, right? It puts that little start chamfer in there. So it will do those kinds of things, even up that face. But again, this could be a condition in which this is too deep. More likely than not, this is something that you do not want to have happen, especially if it's along the length of a flange and that flange is set to certain pressures. But you need the fastener to bolt onto said face, and said face has to be smooth. Okay, it can't ride up along something. It can't have an imperfect surface to sit on. It needs to be smooth. Again, if it's a casting, a forging, heck, even injection molded parts or injection molding of metals now, and even hard plastics and that type of thing. So what we end up with is having to have a spot face. These are very important to understand the basic principles. Now, I haven't checked in 3D Experience, but in NX, there is no direct spot face tool. So the way that you have to apply it is, all right, it's pretty straightforward. Figure out the type of fastener you're going to use. Specify that it's a counterbore. Specify, again, the standard type. It's a socket head cap screw. It's a 1/2 inch. And then for fit, if I leave this at, let's say, normal, you're going to see this fit go to a normal, what we have over here. But I can change this and just say custom. I'm going to leave everything alone. Everything that you see here, everything's going to be left alone. And if I look at my C-bore limit, I can go until selected, distance from selected. So if I need a distance away from something, I can measure that. Or I can just say how deep the counterbore is going to go. A spot face is technically a type of counterbore. It's just not boring in very deeply. Typically, it's going to go in, like this is an inch. It's going to go in 0.0625. Okay. Now, if this were in millimeters, you're looking at about 1.5 millimeters for that spot face. Okay, you're not going to have a start chamfer or a neck chamfer. Yeah, you could probably have a neck chamfer down here. That's fine. But not a start chamfer. You will not have a start chamfer because that chamfer is potentially going to be bigger than the depth of the face. Or if it's not, it's really, there's nothing there at value added putting in a chamfer. Maybe, break an edge or something like that, but that's about it. And then that goes in. Of course, I want to make sure that the hole cuts through and the extended the start. And that is a spot face. So with that spot face, basically what you're doing is you're going in to the flange deep enough that you're machining in a flat face that your fastener, your washer, whatever, will alight upon and form a perfect, in this case, seal, or it'll have a perfect surface, as perfect a surface, the theoretical perfect surface for a flat washer or a flange on that bolt, whatever that may be, to mount on. Okay. Spot facing is a very important thing that's done correctly because we do not want to affect the strength of the part. Again, typically you're going to see this on a lot of castings. Like if you go look under the hood of your car and you see some castings, a lot of times an alternator is held in place by a casting, or various other things are held in place by castings. You just need an area that's been machined flat. That machine flat a lot of times is good. Maybe that's enough. But oftentimes, you're going to have to dig in a little deeper. You want, for some reason, whatever that may be, the washer to be encased or the head of the bolt to sit subflush. And the other thing that this does do, depending on the size of the fastener head, you may have a condition in which, let me come in here, and you saw me earlier messing around with these over here, where if I come in and change this and say button head, shoulder screw, fillister head, any of these, right, as I'm manipulating these, you'll notice this isn't changing. The reason why it's changing is because I have this set to custom. So I can now go to my C-bore diameter and, go make it a size that's a standard. Whatever that standard is, go make it a standard size. You may need extra space in there, like I said, for a larger washer or some sort of sealant, right? Gap for the sealant, whatever. And select OK. This also may be necessary to make it fairly large because the type of fastener you're using has to have a tool go over the top of it in order to get it in or out. So you may need clearance for a tool as well. Okay, if it's a fastener that looks like this, and okay, it's a 12 point, you're really probably not so much worried about being able to get a tool to fit in and around it. So, you know, maybe be a little bit bigger, but if it's a hex bolt, 6-sided bolt, whatever that may be, and you have to have a tool that sits flush to the bottom face that the bolt sets on, so you may have to make that spot face pretty big. So these are critical. Understand what they are. I see a lot of people just want to put in a big giant counterbore, or they don't do anything. They, you know, end up with a scenario like this, which is bad. And that's where spot faces come in super useful. So put that into your repertoire if you're doing machine parts, so you know what that is.